Hey guys, Cameron for Pretty Little Liars, Season 6, Episode 18, Burn This, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode after some really big cliffhangers in the last one, and this was by far the best episode of the season. I mean, not only do we get some really intense moments in this episode, and you guys know what I'm talking about, but we also got a really good twist in this episode that I definitely really enjoyed, and there were definitely some things put to rest in this episode, which I really love. We only have 2 episodes left this season, pretty crazy to think about, but let's just get into this episode. There's a lot to get into, as usual. And we start off with Aria talking to Hannah and Emily all about Allie and Rollins' surprise wedding. They did, in fact, get married. She did marry them. And Hannah and Emily say it's actually a good thing because, Allie didn't really have many allies, and Rollins and her were close, and that's why they got married. So I'm happy for these two. We don't really see Allie in this episode. We just hear about this, so that's really all we hear from them. I'm sure we're going to see Allie again, but as far as this episode goes, that's all we really hear about because I'm pretty sure they're on their honeymoon. But good to see Allie and Rollins married. It makes sense now why on the chalkboard it says Miss Rollins. They had to do that. You knew that was coming. I'm not surprised with that, so that was definitely coming. So while they clean up the Montgomery house after all the wedding festivities, Arya picks up a camera and starts clicking through the photos of Ella and Byron's wedding, and the liars notice the place cards of the tables all have messages for them. And if you put it together, it reads, "Give me the killer by election night, or you lose." So that means that their stalker was at Arya's house for the wedding, definitely, and we don't know why. Definitely someone there is the stalker, which is very interesting. So they really need to narrow it down to who was there, because obviously it was a private wedding. It was a very, it wasn't a huge thing. It was a very private wedding with only a few people there. So it really could be anyone at this point who could be their stalker. They don't know who it is, of course. But like I said, it was a very private wedding with not a lot of people there, so they really need to narrow it down to who they think it could be because they don't really know at this point. So at Spencer's house, her father's lecturing her about Caleb leaking Yvonne's abortion news to the press. Even though Spencer knows it wasn't him, he just took the fall for her. And basically, Mr. Hastings reveals that Caleb issues a statement to support his girlfriend and slam Caleb for leaking the story. He wants Spencer to release a statement saying that she dumped Caleb to distance him from their campaign, which I understand why they wanted to do this, but again, Spencer knows that he didn't really do that, and Spencer asks her dad where Melissa is. He says that an emergency came up in London, and she had to drop everything and leave the country ASAP, and obviously this just makes her look more guilty, and I don't know why Melissa is being so secretive, but it always seems like she's leaving. It always seems like that. Now Melissa has motive to kill Charlotte, a possible murder weapon, and has skipped town. So not only does she has a motive, there's a murder weapon and she skipped town. I mean, she really is out of control. So there clearly is something going on with her. If she's not the killer, Melissa, I'm going to be very surprised if she's not. I mean, very surprised if she definitely is not if she's not the killer of Charlotte, I'll be very surprised if she isn't, because the way the clues are going so far, it really does seem like Melissa could be the killer. But again, this isn't, of course, we're not going to find out who the killer is this season. We're not going to do that. They're going to do that at the end of the show, obviously. So meanwhile, Ashley's in full-blown bridal shower mode. The party's tomorrow, and she's super excited about it. Hannah's pushing her to cancel it. Hannah says that Allie just went out of town, so she won't be attending, and Ashley points out that she can invite Mona instead and reminds her that she still has friends flying in from New York, and basically her bridal showers going on in this episode. So Aria heads to Ezra's to try and figure out what they're going to do about the book, because even though they figured out what they're gonna do, like Ezra is okay with what Arya did, Jillian might not be happy, and she's scared that she's getting it fired because of it. Apparently, Ezra already talked to Jillian and told that Arya helped her with the book, and Jillian wasn't upset. She actually loved Arya's work, and now she wants her and Ezra to write the book together, which I can understand that. I mean, he wrote some really good chapters, and she really helped him out, and basically now they're gonna write it together, which is something that I thought that they were going to do, that they were going to basically combine the book together, and that's what she wants them to do. You can tell, obviously, why Liam's going to be a bit upset, though, because, of course, he thought that Arya and Ezra had some chemistry, which she admitted that they didn't, but I don't know. It seems like every episode they're getting closer and closer, so I don't really know if they still have that chemistry or not. Part of me thinks that they do, a part of me thinks that they don't. What do you guys think? Because I really don't know with that. Emily's outside on the phone with Hannah. She hears a familiar sound and says that she has to go. And somewhere around the corner, someone is driving a car that sounds like the one that nearly killed her the night before. So obviously, she's terrified because she was just killed the night before, and that same car is there, and she has no idea what could happen. So again, obviously, someone is after them. We don't know who it is. And Caleb's then at the hotel trying to look for a room. They don't have any vacancies, and neither do any other local hotels. And Ashley feels guilty. She invites Caleb to stay at her house in the guest room. He turns her down, says that he will figure it out, and he really has no place to go now because, he was living with the Hastings, and now he's trying to figure things out. And I really did feel bad for Caleb because, again, he took the fall for Spencer. It was, he didn't actually leak Yvonne's thing. He just took the fall for her, and now he's really upset about it. So Emily bumps into Ezra outside, asks him about the noisy car. He says that it is called whistle tips, and people have them installed in their cars so that they sound like that. And Emily's wheels are turning. It looks like she may be working on some sort of idea. So that's interesting, this whole whistle tips thing. Clearly someone that had the whistle tips, I mean, that's the person that did it. So she really wants to find out who could have done this. And you can tell that she has some sort of plan. You just don't really know what it is yet. So Toby shows up at Spencer's house, is freaking out, and there's some really crazy scenes between Toby and Caleb in this episode. But I like that we saw Toby here because two things happen in this episode. One, we get a lot of resolution for Toby and Spencer, which I definitely was happy about. And we also get some closure for Caleb and Toby. I really did like that. Now, he's obviously freaking out. He demands to know why Caleb would hurt Yvonne like that, because obviously Yvonne was his girlfriend, and it's understandable why he's upset. And Spencer's trying to explain that Caleb's innocent and that he had nothing to do with this. And Caleb arrives before they can get everything straightened out. Toby just punches Caleb in the face, which I can understand. He's upset. He's not really going to listen to reason. And he just storms out of the house. He doesn't care that Caleb isn't really responsible. He, in his book, he's still upset. He is the reason for it. And Spencer helps Caleb with his bloody nose, encourages him to just tell Toby the truth. And Caleb says that they can't tell anyone else about the stalker until they get more answers, or they're just gonna look crazy because they don't know a lot about it. They know that there's a stalker texting them. They just don't really know anything else. And they know that Emily was supposedly killed last night, but they don't know much else. And obviously, if they tell anyone else, they're gonna look crazy, and they don't want to, jeopardize Veronica's campaign, because if they look crazy, that will definitely ruin Veronica's campaign, and they don't want to do that, obviously. So I can totally understand why they don't really want to do anything about the stalker yet, because they don't know a lot, just like we don't know a lot about the stalker either. And I kind of like that. I like that we don't know as much as we did with, A and everything. I like that we don't know as much here. Definitely, I thought that was interesting that we saw that. So basically, what happens after this is that we see Ashley's at the loft preparing for the big wedding shower. She mentions to Hannah that she invited Caleb to stay at the house because he didn't have anywhere else to go, and Hannah's not happy. Obviously, things are very awkward between her and Caleb, as we know. She shouts to her mother that she had no right to do this, and scoffs that she's tired of her mom not giving her fiance Jordan a chance, because it's clear that Ashley doesn't really like Jordan very much, you can tell, and we don't really know why, but I think it's because Jordan just, I don't know, something about him Ashley just doesn't like. And we know that Jordan and Caleb gave her very different advice. But of course, Jordan doesn't really know about the stalker and everything. So, and Caleb does. So maybe there's that. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's just her and Caleb have more of a history. I don't know. But we really do get the sense in this episode that Ashley does not like Jordan. And I don't think that's really come up before. So that's really interesting that she's not really a fan of Jordan. Mona then corners Spencer at the brew, demands to know why she and Caleb leaked Yvonne's medical records, and Spencer scoffs that she's innocent, and for all she knows, Mona's the one that did it, and I kind of feel like Mona is. I mean, it sounds like something Mona would do, right? She's always been very sneaky like that, and Mona seems genuinely upset and shouts that Yvonne leak got her fired from her campaign too, so she's obviously not the one that did it, but I don't know. Mona's really been known to put on shows very well, and I feel like this was just Mona. I don't know. Maybe she was just trying to make them feel guilty or whatever. I don't know. It's just, we've always known that Mona's a very good actress for that sort of stuff, so I would not be surprised if Mona's lying here. So Aria tells Liam that she is going to be Ezra's co-author, and it doesn't go super well. It's obvious that Liam's skeptical about them working together. You can just tell. So Aria's at home working on the book with Ezra. They're in the midst of a heart-to-heart. There's a knock at the door, and it's a Rosewood cop. And apparently someone witnessed a girl matching Aria's description, leaving the Two Crows diner right after the phone call to Charlotte was made. And Aria insists that she was never at the diner, but they take her down to the police station to stand in a lineup to see if the witnesses can pick her out. And Aria sees someone leaving the police station looks a lot like Sarah after the lineup, and of course, we don't know where Sarah went. We just know that she got away, and basically, Lieutenant Tanner, not Detective Tanner, it's now Lieutenant Tanner. She says that Aria is free to go for now. Aria sneaks a peek of the witness's statement on the lieutenant's desk, and the girl that was seen at the diner was holding car keys with pin dice on them, which we'll get to that at the end because that's very interesting at the end of the episode. So meanwhile, Emily, and that's also one of the reasons why I think Mona could be lying. We'll get into that though. So meanwhile, Emily's doing some investigating of her own. She heads to the Rosewood garage. Now we knew that she had some sort of a plan, and what she does here I actually thought was quite smart. Because she goes to the Rosewood garage and asks the mechanics about the truck. They refuse to answer any of the questions, and Emily spots a truck that tried to run her over in the garage and tries to take a picture of it, but they kick her out, and she manages to show a picture of Melissa to one of the men that work at the garage on her way out. He tells her that Melissa is not the woman that borrowed the SUV, so it's not Melissa. Who could it be? We don't really know, and that's very interesting. The fact that they're not giving her any answers, I don't know. I mean, maybe they are in cahoots with the person that tried to run her over, but the fact they didn't give her any answers, that's really shady. I don't really know why they didn't give her the answers that she wanted, but they didn't, and that's very interesting. So we'll have to see what's going on with that because they didn't give her the answers that she needed, and that's very interesting. So Aria heads to Hannah's wedding shower and fills Hannah and Emily in on her trip to the police station. Spencer's running late. She's at her house having a screaming match with her dad about Caleb, and she screams her dad that he has no right to judge Caleb for leaking a story because Melissa has covered up a murder, and Spencer's dad reveals that Melissa had nothing to do with Charlotte's death, and he tells her Spencer that she was blackmailed by someone and she came to Rosewood to drop off money so they wouldn't spill her secret, and after she dropped off the money, Charlotte was murdered, so she got scared and left town, and I believe this, but at the same time, I don't because we know that Spencer's dad has had, issues before. So could it be that Spencer's dad is the one that possibly killed Charlotte? I don't really know. I mean, just the way he stuck up for Melissa as quickly as he did, I don't know. Just something about it I don't really buy. So Spencer arrives at Hannah's party late, fills the liars in on what her dad told her about Melissa, and at the party they're trying to play a game. But then the sound system goes haywire, and angry rock music starts blasting out of nowhere. Suddenly, lights turn off, the central air turns on overdrive, and papers and gift wrap start flying everywhere. Somehow, a fire started in the middle of a living room. They managed to get everything under control. The fire put out. Aria's burnt, taken to the hospital. I mean, that was a crazy scene. And it's clear that the stalker is the one that did this. They're trying to get them killed. And Spencer's convinced that Mona had something to do with the disaster since she was at the party, and everyone else who was at the party was, their friends. So it's obvious that, it was Mona. It's probably Mona that did this. And Mona has, had records for killing them and things like that. I mean, she was in an insane asylum for most of season 3, so it would make sense if Mona was the one that did this. But that's pretty crazy to see, all crazy stuff overall. But I gotta say, it does show that things are happening. And I've heard people say that nothing's happening this season. It does, in fact, show that things are happening. They're just being a little bit more slow paced with it, which I like because that was a very rewarding scene. Very intense stuff. I couldn't get over that. Definitely really crazy. And you can tell that this stalker definitely means business. I mean, this stalker clearly wants to kill them at this point. I mean, they're not going to get answers, so they're going to take much more drastic measures, and you can tell it's what's going on. So Spencer gets a text message from Toby asking her to meet up, and she makes up an excuse to rush out of the party. And then we get this really great flashback. I love this scene because we knew that Spencer and Toby broke up. We didn't really know why. I assumed it was just, the whole thing where they didn't really agree and they were fighting a lot. There's more to it, though, we find out. We go to Spencer's sophomore year of college. She and Toby are sitting in her dorm room, and we find that Spencer just took a pregnancy test. While they're waiting for the test results, Toby and Spencer get into a fight whether or not they would keep the baby and what their futures hold, and that's pretty much why they broke up, because she had this pregnancy scare, and that she, they didn't really know what to do with the baby, so they broke up because of it. And I can understand if someone's like, oh, it's cliche or whatever, but I think it was really well done. Like, they gave a genuine reason for these two to break up, which I was happy about. It made sense why these two didn't last as long as they did, and I'm glad that they gave a genuine reason. It wasn't something stupid. So that's why they broke up, and Spencer arrives at the brew. Toby's waiting for her. Spencer tells Toby that Caleb didn't leak Yvonne's story. She spills the beans about the new A blackmailing them about Charlotte's murder, and I'm glad she told Toby about it because, Toby was always there for her. And we also found out in the flashback that Toby wanted to get off the force. Like, he wanted to get off the force so that way, her that so that way he could raise this baby with Spencer. It's clear she wasn't pregnant, but if she was, that they were talking about that obviously, so that's why they broke up. And it also makes sense why things are so awkward between these two because they did not leave things in a good place, you can tell. And she mentions her and Toby's pregnancy scare, and Toby reassures her that his new girlfriend Yvonne is just as strong as she is, and she's going to be fine, and she shouldn't worry about it. So Ezra visits Ari in the hospital. She gets emotional, tells Ezra that she doesn't think it was an accident, that it was in fact intentional. This wasn't just a fire that started out of nowhere, that it probably was Mona's fault. And when Ezra starts praying, Aria changes her story, says that she was standing too close to the fireplace, and that's very interesting, the way she just changed the story. I don't know why, but she just changed the story suddenly. So Liam barges in the hospital room, obviously worried sick, and he interrupts their talk. He announces that he has good news for both of them. He just talked to their boss, and everything's official. Ari and Ezra's joint book was approved, which I'm happy about. And the way that that scene was done, the way that Ezra kind of just slowly left, you can tell that he, I think, still does have feelings for Aria. And I think Aria does too, but she doesn't really want to admit it. I feel like these two do still have feelings, and I'm fine with that. I can understand why these two still like each other. And I think they're just starting to fall in love again through writing this book. I don't think they, have always loved each other. I think just through writing this book, they're realizing that they still do love each other. And Ari doesn't want to admit it because she really does care about Liam, but Ezra does because he isn't really with anyone right now. And I think you can tell that Ezra still has feelings for Ari. You can just tell. So Emily's leaving the party with Mona, and this is when this was very interesting. This kind of comes out of nowhere. She notices the pink dice on her keychain, and of course that pink dice we remember look like Sarah Harvey. She asks Mona if she's the one that called Charlotte from the diner. Mona gets nervous, says she can't talk about this right now, and Emily shouts her to get in the car so that they can talk, and that's very interesting that she just doesn't tell her anything. So Mona clearly is hiding something. We don't know what's going on. That's how the episode ends. What the fuck, Mona? Like, what are you hiding? I mean, Mona continues to be shadier and shadier. And then that whole thing with her and Yvonne, I don't believe a second of it now. I don't believe anything that Mona says. I think that Mona is the one that staged the fire, and I think she's out to get them. I really think she is. I think that she could be, the killer. I honestly think she could be. She has genuine reasons for being the killer. Definitely would make sense if she was. So, I think Mona, I don't know if she was the killer or if she was working with the killer, but very interesting stuff overall with Mona, and an amazing episode overall. I really did enjoy this episode, like I said. I'm glad that things are okay between Caleb and Toby now. I'm happy to see that things are better there. Because obviously things weren't good between them. Now this whole thing with Spencer's dad and Charlotte, I don't know if I necessarily believe it. I really don't, because it's very interesting what he's saying, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. I do really want to talk about Mona though, because again, I don't really believe what Mona has said. I think that there definitely is more going on there. We don't really know what Mona's been up to in the past 5 years. We really don't. We know that she's been in this campaign, but what has she been doing since then? We don't really know. So there's definitely more going on there. I don't really know what's going on there exactly, but there's definitely more going on with Mona. We'll have to see what's going on there. That's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that. I'm definitely interested, more than anything, that's the thing I'm most interested in. So Mona, definitely, she's hiding something, and I'm definitely interested in seeing what that's going to be. Ari and Ezra, like I said, just the way that Ezra looks at her, it looks like they still love each other. I think that Ezra still loves Aria. These feelings haven't gone away, and I can understand why Aria doesn't want to, admit it, because she's with Liam and she does care about him. He's not a bad guy. It's just their chemistry is not like Ezra and Aria. And I really feel by them writing this book, they are starting to fall in love with each other. And I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the season they are getting back together. I'm gonna say this: they are definitely gonna get back together before the end of the show. I'm gonna say that right now. That's definitely gonna happen, and they're definitely getting back together. I know that for a fact. So that's how I feel about that. That's definitely going to happen. We'll have to see what's going on there. I like finding out why Spencer and Toby broke up, and it makes sense why things are so awkward between them. But you can tell that they're just not right for each other. I mean, you can understand that. Toby and Spencer, they just have very different ideas, and you can understand, Toby's not a bad guy for what he did. It's just they couldn't really be together after that. They didn't really agree on what to do, and they already were having a lot of fights, so it made sense why they broke up when they did. And basically, Toby and Yvonne, I like these two together. I don't want Spencer and Toby to be back together. I'm fine with Spencer and Caleb, and the fact that Caleb, took the fall for Spencer, I think is, shows why these two should be together. Definitely, I like seeing that. As we know, Jordan, we now know that Ashley doesn't like Jordan all of a sudden. It's kind of come out of nowhere, but Ashley's not a fan of Jordan, and we don't really know why she's not a fan of Jordan, but for whatever reason, she does not like Jordan. And it seems like it's kind of come out of nowhere. We haven't really heard it before, but now we know that she's not a fan of Jordan, which is very interesting. Um, and we don't know why, but she's not. And then this whole thing with the truck, why were they being so secretive with Emily? I mean, they clearly were being very secretive, and we don't know what's going on there. But there's clearly something more going on. I don't know if the mechanic was hiding something, if they were maybe in cahoots with the person that took the truck. I don't really know, but it's clear that there's definitely something more going on because the fact they didn't answer any of Emily's questions, that's really sketchy. And that's really all I can say about that. It's very sketchy, and I don't really believe what they're saying to Emily. But overall, guys, amazing episode. By far best episode of the season. Like I said, we have 2 episodes left, and I can't wait to see where we go from here. Let me know, guys. It looks like next week things are getting even crazier, and it definitely seems like now they know how serious the situation is. Let me know what you thought of this episode. I will see you guys next week, which will be for the season finale of Agent Carter, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.